Simon, there's one standout one. Very keen to get your take on this. Part of the deal for the government to greenlight this new $5.1 billion television rights deal starting from next year with the same broadcasters in place. The Premier League have agreed to pay the EFL a one-off £100 million payment.
Yeah.
So what does this tell us? Is this the football family, if you like, coming together at last, or does it represent small fry in the grand scheme of things?
Bit of both, I think. It's the government waving through a domestic deal, that doesn't require the standard anti-competition rules that are normally they have to do, which is put it out for competitive tender, in exchange for the Premier League kicking some money down to the poor old runts of the litter, the EFL. In the great scheme of things, £100 million payment over the lifespan of a deal, a broadcast deal, which is 3 years, is very small beer. It's very small beer. It's probably, the way the distribution is made, 10% of football, of all money in football, goes to 72 clubs. 90% goes to 20 clubs. So the distribution mechanism is already wrong in the first place. What this does now mean is that actually it's no longer 90% of the money, it's 88.4%. And the TV rights and the distribution goes up from 10% to the other poor 72 clubs, goes up to 10% to 11.6%. And what it's designed to do is they weren't able to get the Premier League to contribute really to the economic support mechanisms that they were asking for, which is there's so much money in football and we need you to help yourselves, and the government aren't going to get involved whilst you don't help yourselves. So the government have used that leverage to push the Premier League in a direction to give a one-off payment of £100 million. I don't think it solves any problems. It does wave through a deal. There was a discussion that there certain factions of the Premier League themselves were suggesting there was an opportunity to get more money out of broadcast deals, and certainly the domestic deals, because the domestic deals went slightly backwards in the last broadcast rights deal for the seasons 19 through to 22. They went slightly backwards on the domestic rights, but they went up on the overseas rights, which made it all the more offensive that Richard Scudamore's parting gift was to redistribute more money of the overseas money to the Big Six, which might explain why Bruce Buck was campaigning for him to be given a £5 million payment on his way out, because obviously Chelsea would be one of the beneficiaries of more distribution in the favour of the Big Six for overseas rights. It gives them surety. They know where they are.
Yeah.
But I actually believe that what we've seen over the last 15, 16 months is a huge indication of televisual interest in football, because they couldn't get enough of it. And it's actually shown you how important football can be to broadcasters and broadcast opportunities. And Sky haven't paid the same money because somehow their product isn't making it work for them. They've paid the same money because they know that football underpins the whole essence of Sky. If you look at Sky News, apparently, that loses £40 million a year by being on air. Yeah. Sky Sports is the driver. News is very expensive to cover. Yeah, behind the business model of Sky, the driving force is football. So it is a deal that gives surety. Is it the football family looking after one another? Well, if you think the football family is a little like the Addams family, that's a bit dysfunctional and a bit uncaring.
Do you know something though? Can the EFL be trusted to share this £100 million out fairly?
The EFL will have a mechanism in place that already exists, that is basically 80%, unless this falls out of that particular trap, which I don't think it will. The way that it will be distributed, my impression is 80% goes to the Championship, 12% goes to League One, and 8% goes to League Two.
So it's the tablets of stone already?
That's the distribution methods that are already there.
Right.
Now, this might be something different, because this might fall into a category of a solidarity payment, and it needs to catch grassroots. And you've got to remember something, Jim, and I know I bang on about this, is that the Premier League has got a responsibility to pay 5% of its overall broadcasting rights into grassroots football, right? Which isn't the professional pyramid, that's everything else and they don't pay it. So when we're getting ahead of ourselves saying, is this the football family doing something that's really unifying and showing its responsibility? No, it's not. It's a wave through. It's Sky and other guys saying, well, we don't want all the aggravation of competitive tenders. We don't want to have the challenges that are potentially on the landscape from the social media companies that can nick these deals away. Amazon are quite happy with their very economic deal that they got for showing full fixture lists over Christmas when they're advertising all their wares, right? And Amazon have got more money than God now. Amazon have been one of the businesses that have profited from this lockdown, this pandemic, more than anyone else. Yeah. So why shouldn't they pay more, actually, for the domestic rights that have clearly worked for them? But they've done what they've done, and they're probably banking on the overseas deals being able to see the inflation. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a good thing, and I certainly don't think it's football unifying and saying, actually, we really recognise that the clubs outside of the Premier League need help and a hand. It's simply the government using a little bit of political nous to leverage through a little bit of extra money that they themselves wouldn't help the football family with once upon a time.
Your take on this so-called football family always amuses me, because you look at the football family, a.k.a. Adam's family,
it's an
don't
ugly,
you?
dysfunctional family, isn't it, that sits together in an environment saying we all care for one another whilst we're all trying to bend one another over. We don't care for one another at all.
I mean, that's the short and the tall of it, isn't it?
It's the truth.
But do you know that, having been inside the game as you've been?
Yeah, of course. You know, there is no care or well-being. Look at the big 6 clubs. They didn't have a care. And look at the other 14 clubs. They really don't care about the championship. They only care when they find themselves in it, right? But they don't care about it. And it's ridiculous. And I didn't care about... I was trying to get out of the championship all my time at Palace, get into the Premier League. So as soon as I could leave those stadiums behind at Crewe and wherever else, I was, wouldn't see my backside for dust. But, the unfortunate thing about the football family is that they do have to understand one another. They are the sum of all their parts. And that's why it's a really good thing that people like Trevor Birch are there. And I'm not loading too much on Trevor's shoulders, but this is an operator that will perhaps bridge the gap. This £100 million payment is not enough, because there needs to be a 25% distribution of TV monies. And behind that, there also needs to be salary caps.
What will be keeping the new chief exec, Trevor Birch, what will be keeping him absolutely
Derby County right now,
consumed at this time? What will be his main focus?
Trying to make an organisation that's been in the dark ages for 100 years run professionally, trying to make the Football League fit for purpose, trying to make it a commercially viable entity, trying to make changes to implement things like wage controls that they've had resistance for because they haven't done it properly the right way, trying to make sure that the fit and proper persons test gets the right people inside football, trying to ensure that the commercial landscape is better than it has been, trying to stop making the Football League, the poor relation, even down to the days when you had Sky broadcasting the fizz and sensational side of the Premier League, and you had an old geezer with a rattle on the Football League show, right, saying that we're down and we're down and with the natives.
Yeah,
that's what Trevor will be doing. Will be tying up and trying to make sure, because it's coming, Jim, that the landscape that hasn't yet landed on the Football League doesn't damage it beyond repair, because the finances of football are in a bloody mess.